Yang.
Hello, nerds!
Hello, nerds.
Hello, nerds!
Hello, nerds! So nerds!
Hello, nerds!
Now with this campaign, bang, dang, it's and Drew, come roll with the Yang Gang.
Happy New Year, nerds! Nerds for Yang. First live stream of 2020. It's early here. I'm still waking up. I'm on the East Coast presently for the holidays. But I'm going back to Switzerland later today. So hope everybody had a great New Year's. I see we've got folks joining us from all over. We've got Mr. Andy from Massachusetts, Herr Petterite from Deutschland. We have Jennifer from Colorado. We have Christina from the great state of New Hampshire. Christina celebrated New Year's Eve with Yang. Nice. Not too shabby. Hope it was good. Let's see who else is joining us. Where are you guys from? Long Island. We've got Canada. We have the Netherlands. We have Michigan. We have Australia. And thoughts and prayers to folks in Australia, man. I hope you guys get those fires under control. Every time I read those stories, it's like, how is it that half of our country is still disputing whether the climate is changing? Wisconsin, the home of a whole pack of Badgers and Russell Wilson's formative years before he joined the Seahawks. Oh, South Carolina. We know how important an early South Carolina is, Joshua. I hope you're out there canvassing. Minnesota, which is very close to other states that have early primaries. Land of Klobuchar. Tejas. Mongolia, for real? I wonder how would we get proof that someone's from Mongolia? But if you're really joining us from Mongolia, that's freaking awesome. Dallas. Hans says he's glad I'll be back. Well, yes, I'm looking forward to returning to Europe for a little while for sure. I will say, being back in the States, it has been fantastic having access to all of the Asian food. For those of you who enjoy a good cup of boba tea or a bowl of pho or some nice sushi, those are things that are harder to come by in Switzerland. Tulsa, Oklahoma, another Tejas. Hong Kong, man, crazy what's going on in Hong Kong. Driven to Iowa for bus tour. I love it. Bear Castle, I hope you're converting some people. I converted some people. I don't know if I fully converted them, but I definitely got them Yang curious since I've been in Florida for the last several days. So it was kind of fun talking to people about Yang in Florida. Number one, very few people know about him. But number two, I think there's some interest in him. Let's see. We've got Bulgaria. Oh, Japan. I was just in Japan like a month or two ago. Oh, so good, man. That food. You know, the other thing about Japan is the organization of public transportation in Tokyo is amazing. And the absence of trash. I don't know how everything's so clean, but hats off to our friends in Tokyo. Utah-Tennessee. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm guessing that means you drove from Utah to Tennessee. So welcome. Ohio. You know how important that goes. As goes Ohio, so goes the nation. Jennifer makes the point that there's so much overseas support. I agree. living overseas most of the year, I find that at least in Europe, a lot of people find Yang to be very innovative and refreshing, and are super excited about him. I did not talk about Q4 fundraising, but I'm sure we will hit that. All right. So, New Jersey. Got to give a shout out to my home state. Slovenia, love it. Of course, California. I was in California for a few weeks after. What the hell? What just happened? What just happened? What? Did we just get a super chat? I turned on super chat and I'm not sure if this is what just happened, but I think Roberto Blake just hooked us up, which is fantastic. And you might be wondering, like, well, why does Tom need money? Tom does not need money. I'm very lucky that I can cover my family's costs, and we live a comfortable life. But any money from this channel basically goes back into the channel. So as an example, I have just commissioned the Spanish professional audio dubbing of the Secure the Yang video panel interview with Paget, Kai, and Aaron from Hustle. And so if you're curious, we'll be able to see how Paget and Kai and Aaron sound in Spanish. Unfortunately, that stuff isn't free. This is not the captions. It's actual professional voice actors doing audio dubbing, and then they also localize the on-screen stuff. So that's probably going to set me back. That next video is probably going to set me back around 600. If any of you know professional audio dubbing companies, let me know. But that's what I get charged. I get charged for that one, since it's like 5 voice actors. It's going to be like $19 a minute. And if any of you are Spanish speakers or know Spanish, people for whom Spanish is their first language, please have them check out the Nerds for Yang Spanish playlist. I think it's on, if you go to my channel and then you go to playlist, you'll see it's like Andrew on Espanol or something like that. And check it out. It's pretty cool. It's really well done. A lot of people that have seen it said that it reminds them of professionally done audio dubbing because it is. So thank you, Roberto, for the super chat. I think that's what that means. So freaking awesome. Anyway, okay, let's get into the state of the race. I think we'll start with the polls, shall we? Start with the polls. Let's see, share screen. Where are you? Real clear. Here we go. Share. Okay. So if we go to the big national summary, what's interesting here, let me make that a little bigger. Whoa, that didn't become bigger. Let's do it this way. What's interesting here, if you look from left to right in terms of the pecking order, what you see here is old Bloomy has nudged us out of our 5th place kind of standing. And then Cloby obviously is neck and neck with us. The thing about Bloomberg is that dude has spent, like, I heard he spent something tens and tens of millions of dollars in just a short period of time. I heard it was like total across all of the candidates. It was like 80 million, and Bloomy and Steyer are probably I think are the lion's share of that. And if Bloomy is spending so much money, tens and tens of millions personally, and he's only getting 5%, like imagine if Yang had that kind of money, it'd be crazy. So I'm hopeful that Bloomy sees the writing on the wall and is like, well, I don't see a path. I mean, if you keep pouring money in and you're peaking at around 5%, you know, that's going to be hard. And if we're kind of concerned that maybe we're counting him out too early, where is Bloomy? He's the yellow lined. So that yellow line had a nice jump, but then it's pretty much flat. So if you look at the Yang line, which is this kind of I don't know what you'd call that color. Sea foam, or I don't know, this bluish green thing. You see here, at least it has a little bit of a slight positive slope compared to the yellow line, which frankly looks like it's actually kind of almost going down. Now, you see Biden has a nice positive slope. Sanders kind of flattish to down. Warren very flat. And then who's this light blue? Booker. Oh yeah, Booker's pretty flat. So yeah, but the big story at the national polling level, in my opinion, is you've got Blumey, Klobuchar, and Yang kind of fighting over this 5th place spot. And frankly, you know, freaking Buttigieg has definitely locked in 4th place. I mean, he's not bumping around. He's definitely in there. The other interesting thing is Biden. I think a lot of us, myself included, had predicted the demise of Biden given his, you know, kind of shaky early debate performances and his, yeah, he just doesn't look really sharp. Almost physically, he doesn't look very sharp. And then I was very sure that Sanders would kind of pull himself out after the heart attack. He's stuck around. Warren is a case of someone who kind of, she's this brown line. I mean, wow, at one point she was at 27%. When was that? Hold on, let me make this a little smaller so I can see the date. That looks like it's around October. She was October 7th. She was around 27%. And now she's at 15, so half of where she was. Now, look, people go up, people go down. But what you could have said the same thing, like Biden went from 41 all the way down to 27, 26, and now he's back up to 28. This race is so open. It's so dynamic, I would say. But yeah, so you've got these three, Biden, Sanders, and Warren, who just will not go away, although Warren seems like she's losing strength. And then you got Buttigieg, man. He's like almost 10% now. Then Bloomer, Klobuchar. Remember when we used to be concerned about Beto and Booker? And who else were we concerned about? Harris. Yeah. Well, obviously they're, you know, Booker's still kicking around. Steyer, man, dude, bro, you're at 1.4%. And you've spent tens and tens of millions of dollars, Steyer. I love you, man. And I respect that you're putting so much skin in the game. But if you put it and back Yang as like the ultimate investor in the Yang startup, it'd be epic. So that's the national polls. I don't think there was anything recent in early state polls. Like, look, the last Iowa poll was December 16th, where we were at 3. The last New Hampshire poll was December 8th, where we were at 5. And the last Nevada poll was November, where we're at 3. And the last South Carolina poll was December 11th. So that goes into this whole topic that I know a lot of us are concerned about, which is kind of fair access to polling, because these the January debate obviously is going to require Roberto. I just saw Roberto's very funny. Where were we? Yeah, so the thing with the access to the January debate is it requires early polling performance, but if there are no early polls, then we can't perform. It's like saying, oh yeah, you can go to this university. You just need to score such and such on your SAT, And then they're like, yeah, but we're not going to have the SAT offered until next year. It's like, all right, well then how the heck am I supposed to get in? So let's since we're on the topic, let me kind of talk about that, the debate access. Hold on. Let's go to the good old New York Times. So in order for us to get on to the January debate, we need 225,000 donors. We got that. I don't know what number we're at, but we're way over that number. But you also need one of two of these requirements met. You either need 2 polls in early states at 7% or more. And as we just discussed, like, well, shut. I was about to say shit. Shit, brother. If the goddamn polls are not being executed, then how the hell are we supposed to get 7%? Yeah, it's like, well, you could qualify for the Olympics if you meet these times in state track meets, but we're not having any state track meets, so I guess you're not going to the Olympics. Or you can have 4 national polls at 5%. So you need 4 at 5 in early nominating states or national surveys. That's interesting. What obscure, that's even just the wording of this. It's like you need 7 in these 4 early nominating, 7%, or you need 5% in early nominating states. Well, then why the hell do you need the 7 if you can get, I guess you get 4 at 5 or 2 at 7. Okay. So who's qualified? You got the usual suspects, freaking these 4, the 4 horsemen, or 3 horsemen and Elizabeth. Bloomy has not qualified. He's had 5 with 5% or more. It says here that he's had 5. I guess that's the interesting thing. State or national polls with 5% or more. That's the thing about the DNC, because here you would say, well, hey, it says 4 polls at 5% or more. Dude has 5, but he doesn't have the green check mark. So I presume sometimes the DNC doesn't recognize certain polls, or I'm reading this wrong. I don't know if anybody else knows why Bloomberg has not qualified. Oh, no donor threshold. That's why. Yeah, because when you have 1 donor, that's probably less than 225,000. So Bloomy has not qualified yet. And I don't know. I wonder how close he is to meeting that donor threshold. Like, why would anybody give money to Bloomberg? Like, clearly, he's got plenty. Oh, Klobuchar is qualified. Kloby. And then you've got Yang. And we only have 1 poll with 5% or more. And we need 4 of them, or we need 2 at 7. Frankly, 2 at 7 is going to be pretty hard. So I would focus our efforts on getting 4 with 5% or more. And we've got 1. And when does it? Oh, until Jan 10. Shoot, man. It's Jan 1, obviously. Happy New Year. So we only have 9 days to get 3 more polls at 5% or more. So, this is one of those things where, luckily, I think because of our campaign and the strength of our movement, if we don't get into the January debate, it's not going to be as life-threatening as, like, if Booker gets off the stage again. Because I don't think his fundamental support is as strong as Yang is. But what does matter is if you don't get on this debate stage, what happens is it becomes this snowballing, self-fulfilling prophecy where, if I'm going to mix metaphors, it becomes this sort of virtuous cycle where you get on the debate stage, you have more opportunities to perform, then you get more media coverage because they talk about it. And then they show more clips in terms of the debate highlights, which then results in more donors, which gets you more money, which then gives you more access to setting up infrastructure on the ground, which then gives you higher polling numbers. And it kind of keeps repeating itself. And so, this getting access to early debates is a little bit like young people getting access to good quality education. Like if you don't get it, it doesn't mean like you can't succeed, but it's freaking hard, especially if you're not a household name politician who's been in DC for like a million years. And so anyway, that's enough about the debate stuff. So basically TLDR on the debate stuff is it's going to be tough for us. And hopefully in the next 9 days, we get 4 more polls with where we show up at 5% or more. But in order to get 4 more polls where you show up at 5% or more, there needs to be 4 more polls. And frankly, for us to, 5% is not easy for us. So I would say there really needs to be like 7 or 8 more polls. And I don't know what the schedule is for these organizations releasing the polls. But that's what it is. So thanks a lot, DNC. Thanks for all your help making sure there's a fair, open process. I got to say the DNC and even a lot of the sort of democratic, traditionally democratic friendly organizations, like, people talk about the media being super biased, and it obviously is like everything else in the world. But it's not just bias against Republicans and Trump, which probably there is a little bit of skepticism there, maybe more than is deserved. I don't know. We can debate that. But there's bias against people who just aren't part of the club. And sadly, Yang is not part of that whole like Harris, Booker, Castro, Klobuchar, that kind of Senator Washington insider club. And I mean, I did a video about that 538 blog podcast where they were, you guys can go check it out. But basically they were taking viewer questions, and they had a question about, do you think it's harder for candidates of color to get media representation and coverage? And they literally talked about Harris, about Booker, about Castro, and not a single mention of Yang. And they talked for many, many minutes. And it's like, seriously? There's one person of color who qualified in the last December debate, and his name's Andrew Yang, and you guys just won't freaking say it. Okay. So, yeah, that's that. Now, Roberto says, hey, how many viewers on average watch the debate? I don't know. I think it's a small percentage. I think in the polls I've seen, only like a few, maybe high single-digit percentage of adults watch these debates. But I think a meaningful percentage, a much more meaningful percentage, watches the derivative content from the debate. So they'll watch the highlights. They will hear about it talked about on the news. They'll talk to friends who did watch the debates. So this might be one of those things where the actual live audience is small, but the replay and the digest and stuff, kind of like live streaming, might be just as big or bigger. All right, so let me move on, and then we'll just take some viewer topics. But I wanted to talk about. So we did the polls. Now let's talk about betting odds. Where are you? There you are. I don't know if there's much kind of new and exciting in the betting odds. Basically, kind of maps to the polls, except the gamblers seem to think that Bloomberg and Yang have an equal chance, even though Bloomberg is a couple percentage points ahead. There are still some people who think there's a chance that Hillary would get the nomination, which is just, I can't freaking understand that, because we've given Hillary multiple bites at this apple, and she has not gotten over the line, and having a rematch with Trump and Hillary seems like a very bad idea. speaking of Hillary, I will say I did another video. You can check it out on the channel a few days ago about who can win the Obama coalition. So this is the young Black and independent voters who came out and helped Obama, beat McCain and Romney, and who did not come out in equal numbers for Hillary. And basically, the TLDR is that Andrew Yang, among all of the Democratic candidates, has the highest known favorability for independents, young people, and African-American voters. This is of those who have any opinion of him. He has high favorability. So, but yeah, in terms of the betting odds, I would say kind of maps to the polling. Now let's look at what the heck? What just happened? Kristen Slevin. Dude, we're gonna get those Spanish videos. Maybe I can get more localized and not so the money will go to mainly the Spanish video audio dubbing, which I will tell you, if you guys want, since we're all friends here, let me just show you what that looks like. So thank you, Kristen, by the way, for the super chat. But let me just show you guys what that Spanish stuff looks like. Here you go. Let's go to the channel. If you go to my playlists, and then I have this Nerds con Andrew Yang Español playlist.
Que sigue creciendo, donde gastamos el
How
doble
sweet is
en
that?
atención médica que otros países para obtener peores resultados. Y es porque muchas de las cosas en las que gastamos mucho
this
dinero
is not
no
look at that. They even localized the charts. So this is not obviously not captions. This is actual audio. And then here, where's the hello nerds? Where's the hello nerds? That's the best part.
¿A quién tenemos de vuelta en... Hola, nerds.
Hola, nerds.
¿A quién tenemos de vuelta en el programa? Al único e inigualable, el futuro presidente de los Estados Unidos.
Futuro presidente. I think that means future president. Any rate, that's where some of this money from Super Chat, well, basically all the Super Chat money and then some contribution from Tom, because basically that stuff, it costs me a few $100 per video, but I think it's totally worth it because nobody likes to read not nobody, but it's more accessible than the captions, in my opinion. And it basically, now those videos, just so you know, those videos have gotten thousands of views. So I would imagine that the people watching those videos are Spanish speakers. So having 1,000 Yang Gang kind of like, wow, this hat always seems crooked. Sorry. It's kind of reversed on the camera. Those Spanish viewers, those might be people who have very little access to Yang Gang content because most of the Yang Gang content is in English. But as we know, the Spanish voting population is growing in the Spanish speaking voting population is growing in the US. So I kind of feel like that's ours for the taking. And then obviously Yang always sticks up for the Hispanic immigrants, saying, hey, let's not blame them for all our problems. Like this is mostly a technology issue. So I think he I didn't know that was an adjective, but I kind of hear where you're coming from. Why does it? Okay, there we go. I have to wear a hat because I took a. Do they have Spanish comments too? Yes, they do. I'll show you. Hold on. Chrome. Let's see here. So there's some English comments. Like Elmiro, Andrew Nomas, Cambiara Los Estados. I actually don't know what these people are saying, but I think these are all Spanish, like, the Spanish stuff. They're basically saying like, hey, this is good stuff. Of course, there's a lot of English comment, but look, here's one. So yeah, that's one video. And then I have another video where this was the second Nerds for Yang, kind of Secure the Yang one. But then here's the first one. That has almost 2,400 views. And let's see. Do we have Spanish comments? Yes, Los Mas Chinganos. I'm not going to read Spanish for you guys because obviously I'm not good with the Spanish. But yeah, Latinos for Yang, Latinas for Yang, those guys have also helped share out that content. So okay. So thank you again for the super chat, Kristen. Now let's move on to, we did the betting odds. Let's look at Google search trends. All right. Here we are. Who is being searched for, let's say, in the last 7 days? Oh, yeah. Hola, nerds. We are the blue line. Look at that. We really pulled away. We were quite close with old Buttigieg and Warren at the end of the year. And then December 29th, very good. December 30th, good. And then really great kind of New Year's boost. Now, if you add Bernie Sanders, how's he doing? Oh, respect. Bernie and Yang are pretty close. And then if we add Joe Biden, yeah, Biden's not weak either. Well, I guess what's most interesting is how little search interest there seems to be for Buttigieg and Warren. Although Buttigieg had a little bit of a spike here on today so far, but still second to old Yang. Bernie's getting some healthy, so it's a pretty tight race. But I would say I'd be most concerned if I were Warren. Like, what's going on with Warren? In terms of where there's the strongest interest, wow, Biden, for some reason, in the Southeast has had some nice strong interest. And then Yang, Make America Goth Again, is a breakout query. Poll the people. So we talked about the debate poll access. Pete Buttigieg, Jesus tweet? What did he tweet about Jesus? Huh. Let's see. Now I'm curious. Oh, we'll look at that in a second. And then Warren janitor. Oh, her father was a custodian. Bernie, 5 million donations. Biden, church shooting. Okay, so he probably did some responses. So I'm most interested in Buttigieg Jesus tweet. So let's take a look at that. Hold on 1 second, guys. Jesus. Okay. Pete Buttigieg. I should probably follow him just to keep track of what he's up to. Okay. He's asking for money. Not in a wine cave. Asking for money. I don't blame him for asking for money. Whoa, 2 millionth donation. That's pretty impressive. Asking for money. Where is the Jesus stuff? Let's see. Let's search. Pete Buttigieg Jesus. Okay, so he says, today I joined millions, right? No matter. Well, oh, not as a citizen, but as a refugee. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not surprised that has created some activity, because I think a lot of conservatives obviously are big pro Jesus folks, as is half my family. And they don't look at the term refugee as a positive thing. And so I bet they're a little pissed that Buttigieg called Jesus a refugee. I don't have a strong opinion on that one. I feel like my understanding is that Jesus was not born into wealth, and, kind of had almost a vow of poverty in terms of his lifestyle. Was pissed about people kind of spending too much money on material things. So was he a refugee? I don't know. Like, he didn't have a place to stay. They were kind of on the run, and Romans weren't big fans of them. So yeah, anyway, tangent. Sorry. So that was the Google search. Let's look at YouTube search before we move on. What happened? What the? There it is. Share. Okay. So TLDR for the Google search is, if you're Warren, not looking too good. If we look at the 30-day trend for Warren, she looks healthier in the 30-day trend, like still bottom of the packish, but kind of with the pack. But then when you look at this last 7 days, it looks a little more concerning for her. It's just more clear when you zoom in that she doesn't have the energy and interest, at least from web searchers. Now, if you look at YouTube searches, this is where we usually kind of run the table. Oh, no. Look at that. So, yes, we are still leading the pack today. And if you go back, let's say, a couple hours, we're still the strong leader. So here, the last 7 days, we have more. But you see some interest in Biden. Good old Biden is not sort of falling behind in terms of what people are looking like. What is it about Joe Biden? Oh, him getting heckled in New Hampshire. I'm kind of curious about that. Shall we take a look? Let's take a look. Let us take a look. Let's share Chrome tab. Boom. Share audio. Joe Biden heckled in New Hampshire. Okay.
Hey, no, this is not a Trump rally. Okay. All right. I agree with you, man. I agree. Nice talking to you. All right. Well, this
I like the sign language lady.
This is a democracy. Well, I hope it does. I hope it does. Let her go. Let her go. Let her go. Let her go. Okay.
Ooh.
Okay. Folks. Look, this is, we all know. I'll tell you what. Well, wait. I released 21 years.
Ooh.
Your guy hasn't released one. What's he hiding?
Ooh. Not bad, Joe.
Okay, look.
All right. So, that whole heckling thing reminds me a little bit of my holiday dinner, which I already did a video about with half my MAGA family. And it's just, I think it reflects the state of American politics, where it's so easy to just insult each other's candidates and throw accusations and not just focus on the problems. And nobody wants to talk about problems and solutions anymore. So I feel bad for Joe, to be honest with you. I kind of also feel like I felt like watching like a older uncle kind of get picked on, which doesn't make me feel good. So I hope, respect to Joe for kind of calling BS on some of that heckling, and also kind of remaining composed. So anyway, back to the YouTube search trends. I think the TLDR is that while we are leading the pack, I don't feel like we are crushing it and like multiples ahead as we were. So everybody on YouTube that's creating YouTube content for the Yang Gang, please continue doing it, because that is an area of strength that we want to retain. Like if you look back, say 90 days, well, actually, yeah, maybe 90 days. I kind of feel like in the old days, like let's say past 12 months even. Huh. I always thought that we were way ahead of others, but look, here's the data. So it suggests that we maybe were always in the lead, and which would be multiples ahead of where we are in the polls, where we're not in the lead. So maybe that's the TLDR. And the last thing about the YouTube stuff is give credit to people taking an interest in Biden. Perhaps a lot of it is for the heckler stuff. And maybe that's where like you can't just count the quantity of searches, but the motivation. I think people searching for Yang are honestly trying to look and learn about him. So like if you look at what the queries are, the debate, of course, the whipped cream stuff. But then if you look at the Biden queries, roaches, what is the deal? Wow. Biden leg hair. Man, there are some interesting searches out there. So that is the YouTube trend stuff. Now let's go to Twitter. So let me share that one. Chrome. Where are you, Twitter? Here we go. Share. Okay. So if you look at Twitter followers, I would say I'm super encouraged. I feel like that gap between Yang and Buttigieg is definitely closing, and it's manifested also in the daily number of ads. So this is the total followers, where we're at a little over 1 million, and Buttigieg is around a little over 1.5. And if you go back to, let's say, April, we were just around, or maybe July, we were around 500,000, and he was more than double us. And now he's just around 50% more than us. And then if you look at Twitter daily ads, so yesterday we added 2,000. Warren added 1,500. Buttigieg only added 188 Twitter followers on New Year's Eve. Sorry, Pete. And then if you look on December 30th, we added 3,000. Buttigieg had negative 20. Ooh. And Warren added 1,500. And if you go to December 29th, we added 1,700. Buttigieg only 600. I feel like Buttigieg might be losing steam in terms of Twitter interest. So maybe that's why this gap is closing. So encouraging news there. Let's see. And then let's talk about media mentions. And then we'll probably just see if there's any commentary from the Nerds for Yang Nation, and then go from there. I also need to acknowledge some of the new Nerds for Yang members, but I'll do that in a second. Okay, let's go to media mentions. Okay, share. Bum, bum, bum. Here we go. So if we look at, here we have CNN, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, Fox. And the last date that GDelt has, which is this kind of nonprofit that tracks mentions, is on December 30th. We had 18 mentions on these major cable news show networks. You got de Blasio at 83. Buttigieg had 93. So Buttigieg had 4.5 times more mentions than we did. But he's not 4.5 times he doesn't have 4.5 times more polling support. You look at Sanders, he had 130 mentions and we had 18. So he had almost 7 times more. And he is doing, I think, about 7 times, a little less than 7 times better. So I actually think in terms of the media coverage, if you go back in time to, let's say, earlier in this year, look at that. In April, no Yang, 0 Yang. And then if you just jump to May, Yang had 4 mentions to Biden's 313. And then you go to July, Yang had 1 mention to Sanders 160. So, old Yang is starting to get at least a little grudging acknowledgement from CNN, MSNBC, Fox. Now, it's not proportionate to his polling support. It's sure as hell ain't proportionate to social media interest. But, it's better than nothing. Now, this is the big dogs, ABC, CBS, NBC Evening News. Let's see them. On December 30th, they had Steyer, 29th, Biden, 5. Yeah, we haven't broken through to the kind of establishment media. But they're like barely covering anybody. I think they're mostly interested in the impeachment. And then if you have online news mentions, this is where I think we've typically done a little better. You've got, so far today, Yang has 30, so almost 10% of Biden, which is nice. Not too shabby. And then on December 31st, you had Yang had 289 mentions, around 10% of Biden. But look at Buttigieg. He has 803, so 3 times more than us. So a little bit, online news mentions looks like it's a little bit more lined up with polling interest, and certainly, but then not lined up with Google searches or YouTube searches. So in terms of media blackout, still with us, but I think the blackness is, there's like little rays of light coming through there. And I think we should just keep the pressure on the media organizations and their advertisers. So with that 538 podcast thing, I called BS on them and tried to tag Casper Mattress, who sponsored that podcast, and say, hey, just so you know, you're sponsoring a media organization that is refusing to cover the first person of color who qualified for the December debate, or who was at the December debate, even though the whole topic was about candidates of color. And Casper, I know you are interested in customers from all backgrounds. You may want to ask your buddy Nate Silver what's going on. At any rate, so that is, I think that covers, we could, of course, go on and on. Like maybe in a future video, I'll probably I want to break down Yang's healthcare plan, because it's very detailed and really interesting in my opinion. But let's see if there's any audience comments or questions, and then we'll wrap up for today. Let's see. Any questions from you guys? Well, Tim's like 10% of Biden is not. You're right. It's not. It used to be like 0% of Biden. So I guess I'm looking at the glass half full, but you're right. We need as much coverage as Biden or more in the long run. Christian thinks Buttigieg should drop out. That would be nice. I don't think he is, man. He just announced they raised like 25 million, which I think is a 25% boost over last quarter. That dude's got the mun. Warren, I think, is going to be a down round. I think she's going to raise less in the fourth quarter than the third quarter, which is just terrible because if you're a donor, nobody wants to give money to a dying candidate. I'm not saying Warren is a dying candidate, but you look at the Google search activity, you look at the polling sort of cratering, 50% of what she used to do, and then you look at raising less money as the campaign goes on, as we get closer to the big event. It's going to be tough for Warren. The sad thing is, I don't know how many Warren supporters will go to Yang. I would imagine they'll probably go to Bernie if Warren supporters start peeling off, or if Warren pulls out someday. So maybe some will go to Yang. I don't know. Let's see. Potential problem with Yang's viewers being too young to vote. Well, that is a problem. I mean, he has great favorability with 18 to 29-year-olds. Certainly, probably if there were a high school primary, he'd probably do better. But I'm not too concerned about that because I feel like the 18 to 29 group obviously is old enough to vote. We have the highest favorability of people. When you ask 18 to 29-year-olds if they have an opinion of Yang, and they don't say they have no opinion, they have some opinion of him, he has the highest favorability of when you ask those 18 to 29-year-olds about Buttigieg or Warren or Sanders or Biden. If they have opinion of those candidates, they generally, fewer of them have a favorable one. Let's see. Ooh, can I cover the current smears against Andrew Yang's Medicare for All? I could. It's a long topic. Maybe I'll just give you guys like a real quick sampler. So let's go into it because it is a big topic. So I obviously have noticed a lot of people being really fired up about Yang's healthcare stuff and Medicare for All. And obviously there was the little bit of kerfuffle with my buddy Tim Black, who I think we're now cool with, about Medicare for All, about single payer and whether it's a public option or not. So let's take a look at the actual policy. Let's look at the details, because the thing is, people are really fired up about Yang's Medicare for All stuff, but he actually has a multi-page proposal here. Look at this thing. I'm just going to scroll through it briefly. It goes on and on. It's really good. I was reading it this morning, to be honest with you, and because I figured this will come up. So let's first talk about the elephant in the room, which is like, all right, he is not for single payer. So let's just acknowledge that. I think if I were to take a very as accurate a summary as possible of Yang's position on who pays for healthcare, I think he wants single payer in the long run, but he also wants a transition period so that people aren't kicked off of their private insurance or precluded from having private insurance. And he wants that public option, which he sees as Medicare, to deliver and have people choose to go to Medicare over their private insurance, versus saying, oh, on this date, no one will be able to have private insurance that has duplicative or overlapping coverage, and you have to go for Medicare, and that's just like kind of mandatory Medicare. So, hey, if you're hardcore on single payer and you want an overnight switch, then this guy's health plan is not going to be for you. If you believe that in the long run, single payer probably is the right direction to go, but you still want to kind of see it prove itself, and you want to have a transition period, and you don't want to freak the general election out by saying they're going to lose their private insurance, then you might like Yang's healthcare plan. But I would also say that Yang's plan is really unique in that he's not only talking about who pays, because in a weird way, that's what everybody's fixated on. Oh, single payer versus public option, and can there still be private insurers? It's obviously a very fundamental question, but there's also other questions. Even in a world of single payer, why the heck is healthcare so much? Why does it cost so much for healthcare in the US? And why are we getting weaker results for the money we're putting in? Perhaps part of that is private insurance, but that's not the whole explanation. And so he basically focuses his plan on this six-pronged approach. And I won't go into detail of each one for this stream because it's I mean, to his credit, it's very detailed. This is just a summary. Number one is negotiating drug prices, international reference pricing, forced licensing of generics, public manufacturing facilities, and importation. So that's not super controversial. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Maybe the second one is investing in technologies to make health services more efficient, like telehealth. That's not something you hear Warren or Sanders talk about. The third is changing the incentive structure by offering flexibility to providers, prioritizing patients. One of the things he's talking about is like how providers now get paid per procedure versus just having like a regular salary. Because the current structure, like you kind of, as a doctor, you get compensated by the more stuff that you do. And also you have less likelihood of getting sued if you say, well, I ran every test I could think of. So there's these kind of interesting, weird incentives that cause the current system to be inefficient. Focusing more on preventative care and end-of-life care options. So this will be controversial, and Obama tried to touch on this, and then Sarah Palin started talking about death panels. But if you look at the data, the amount of money spent for patients in the last year of their care versus the rest of the previous 80 years of their life or 90 years of their life, it's quite startling that we spend a ton of resources in the final months and weeks of a person's care. And you got to ask yourself, well, of course, if we had unlimited money, just keep doing whatever you can until the person's no longer around. But we don't have unlimited money. And because we're spending so much in different stages of someone's care, you have to ask yourself, well, what's the best thing for that patient? And what's the best thing for the patient population in general? There are probably, if you take it the other extreme, there are probably infants and children who are not getting all the care they could. And you have to ask yourself, all right, well, what is the impact of spending an additional $10,000 on this patient versus that patient? And obviously, this becomes a very hard ethical dilemma. But it is also potentially unethical to keep spending all of this money on a system that isn't delivering us results and has a impact on people's health and livelihoods and their well-being. But certainly number 4 could be controversial. Even as I talk about it, it's a delicate one. And then number 5, focusing on mental health and well-being, basically a comprehensive approach. And number 6 is diminishing the influence of lobbyists. So what I would say about the whole Yang healthcare plan is it's very holistic. Are we back? I think we're coming back. I think we're back. Okay. So it's a multi-layered approach to making healthcare in America better. And it's also taking on very delicate topics like incentive structure for the providers, end of life care, mental health. So in some ways, it's easy to be like, well, I'm for single payer, blah, blah, blah. Everybody should be off their private insurance. It's a bumper sticker kind of approach. And I would say that Yang's taking more of like a business, like a CEO's approach, which is like, all right, well, it's probably not going to be one lever that I pull to solve the problem. What are all the root causes and what are the ways to address each root cause? Unfortunately, that approach does not historically do well in politics, but hopefully he can prove it wrong. Whoa, Roberto Blake is like, it's like Christmas in January. Thank you, Roberto, for the super chat. And Roberto says Yang is the only candidate who won't be obstructed worse than Obama by a Republican House and Senate because he can't be branded as far left. So that's a very good point that Roberto's raising, which is like, yes, we care about winning the election and we care about defeating Trump. We also need to govern this country that has real problems after Trump is gone. Trump is not the only problem with America. He's probably, as Yang would say, he's a symptom. I would say he's also part of the problem, but we won't get into that. So let's fast forward, and it's like, January 2021, and the new Democratic president is getting signed in, God willing, knock on wood. Who can actually get anything done with the Republicans in the Senate, assuming we don't win the Senate? And even if we did, you need like so many votes. I think it's like 55 or 60 in the Senate to get anything done these days. So I think Roberto's point is like, well, Yang, because he's not like old school Democrat and part of the club, and he's a bit of an outsider, and he is a pragmatic guy who likes data. And in the old days, the Republicans were very big on having thoughtful policy informed by experts. Obviously, things have changed a little bit with the Republican Party in the last, 5 or 6 years. But I agree with Roberto that not only do we need to win the general, we need someone who's not going to be completely obstructed at every turn. And if you think, like, let's take a visualization. President Yang going down to Kentucky and talking about how he cares about the Kentuckians who are losing their jobs in retail, in truck driving, in clerical, in manufacturing, and that he thinks that we need a better way to help transition. And he has a proposal, one of which is obviously a freedom dividend, but also things around improved healthcare, and that he wants to measure his presidency based on these metrics. I don't know. I think that would go over better than if you sent a President Warren down there or a President Buttigieg down there. Would a President Biden do better? He might, although I don't know, with that heckling, they really have, credit to Trump. He's really started to smear Biden with the whole Ukraine thing. And honestly, Hunter didn't do Joe any favors by taking that board position. But, hey, every candidate has some weird family members, and who knows, maybe Yang does too. I don't know, but it seems like nobody's free of any controversy. So we should be kind of prepared for Oppo research on Yang too. But I would say for Biden, my God, his star is definitely not shining as bright. And in order to get anything done after the general, we need someone that can unify both parties, or at least win enough independents and moderates to get stuff done. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions or comments? Good Vibes thinks that Yang has the worst healthcare plan. Well, that's fair. I mean, I find out that 6-point plan to be pretty thoughtful, around prescription drug prices, around comprehensive care, around incentives, Those seem to be good, and having more broader access to Medicare, I think is good, but everybody has their opinion. And maybe at one point we'll do a more deep dive and compare each candidates, because I wonder, like, if you went to Warren's site, which we won't do because we're already over an hour. Maybe at a future video I'll do a more detailed comparison. Let's see. Any other questions before we wrap? People talking about Pete's wine cellar and the 25 million. Oh, yes, I promised. So we have a new channel memberships that we launched yesterday, and we already have some members. So let me just quickly share and thank all of the people that became members of the channel. And let's just go here. And I'll just show you who they are. So we're going to go to the Nerds for Yang behind the scenes. For those of you who aren't YouTube creators, this is what a YouTube creator sees when they are managing their channel. And if you go to monetization and you go to memberships, so here we have, let's see, all members. We'll start with our executive. Oh, no, we don't have any executive vice president, but we do have vice president level. Fat Lamb, V, Quad 4, Bat for Yang, JM, Sap, Emily, Kingsley, V Lamb, and Lock Win. So thank you for you guys becoming VP level members. This will basically help support the channel the way that Roberto was with the super chat. Basically, I'm just gonna give this money to the Spanish dubbers and to my various tech vendors, like hosting for the podcast and this streaming software that we're using now. And I've got some new software that's going to help me do like these little whiteboard videos. So thank you to our VP levels. Next, we have our hardcore Nerd for Yang members. So thanks, James, Elbogart, Felix, XP, Chad, Mike, Ming, and Tybee. And then we have our verified. That's the largest group. $1.99 a month still helps. Brandon, Mr. Lai, Don, Lee, yes, Sugar Sweet Brian, Lisa, John, Chris, TY, Sydney. Sydney, I want to give credit to. I think Sydney was our first member. So thank you to you guys for supporting the channel. If you want to join, if you go to any of my videos, there's a join button. It's totally optional. You'll get a little shout out here and there. And mainly you will know that you're helping this channel grow, because basically any money I get from this channel, I just pour back into content creation. So make sure this, I actually think that'd be kind of fun. Although the Hola Nerds had a little bit of soccer feel to it. Okay. So that's it for this live stream. Happy New Year to everybody. And thanks again to all our members, and thanks to the super chat support. So cool. That's the first time I've seen that happen. I guess I just turned it on yesterday, and it's cool to get the help, and we'll keep making content. And this year, guys, we are going to make some history. We are going to make some history because this race is wide open. The fact that Biden is not far and away the leader is such a good sign for us. And the fact that Warren is now starting to decelerate, such a good sign for us. And the fact that Buttigieg, although he's raising a lot of money, is showing serious weakness with independents and young voters, and unclear if he's going to have strong support from black voters. And the fact that, guys, he's like a mayor of the 4th largest town in Indiana. Imagine, here's a thought exercise for you. Imagine that Andrew Yang were not the former CEO of a company, were not a former ambassador of entrepreneurship for Obama, But if he were just the mayor of the 4th largest town in Indiana or the 10th largest town in California, would anyone be covering him? No. So you could argue Buttigieg is kind of getting outsized support, in my opinion, because it's probably not on his policies. He doesn't have very detailed policies. He is very articulate and very smart. You know, I don't know where he rates on the authenticity scale. I'll let you guys decide. But yeah, that's that. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye, nerds. Happy New Year, nerds. And let's crush 2020. Let's win this whole thing. Hopefully we get into the January debates. If not, F them. We keep going. We keep riding until we get all the way, because we know that the country needs Andrew, and his policies speak to the real problems that are facing the country. And as Roberto said, like, we also need someone that can actually get stuff done after we win. And I can't see President Buttigieg or President Biden. I mean, they'll just, can you imagine? Trump will just not let go of the whole Ukraine thing. And that will just keep dragging on. I mean, they still talk about Benghazi and Hillary's stupid emails, and it's been years. What are they going to do with Biden? God help us. All right. Have a great new year. Hope everybody has safe travels back home if they're still traveling for the holidays. And we'll see you next time. Keep it real. Bye, nerds.